Alexander Isak's transfer standoff raises eyebrows amid Arsenal's successful summer move for Viktor Gyökeres. The summer transfer window of 2025 hasn't disappointed. As always, it's been full of high-stakes negotiations, dramatic twists, and more than a few moments worthy of a soap opera. While Arsenal pulled off 6 signings in their push to dethrone Manchester City, one story has dominated the headlines far beyond North London: the saga of Alexander Isak. Once a top Arsenal target, Isak was ultimately deemed too expensive. The Gunners instead turned to Viktor Gyökeres, a fellow Swede, who arrived from Sporting CP in a deal worth €63.5 million plus €10 million in add-ons. But the stories of how both strikers pushed for a move this summer have drawn an important comparison, and a deeper question: why has Isak faced such fierce criticism, while Gyökeres largely escaped it? 2 players, 2 protests, but only one backlash. Both Isak and Gyökeres took serious steps to force through a summer transfer. Isak, after attracting interest from Liverpool, skipped Newcastle's opening match against Aston Villa and began training alone, even returning temporarily to his former club Real Sociedad. His absence was interpreted by many as a strike, a form of protest signaling his desire to leave. Gyökeres did something similar. He missed Sporting's pre-season match and, according to club president Federico Varandas, would have faced a fine if he had stayed. But the situation played out differently. The club and player eventually reached an agreement, and the transfer was completed with far less public fallout. So why the stark difference in perception? Isak speaks out, and sparks debate. After declining to attend the Professional Footballers Association (PFA) award ceremony, where he was named in the Premier League Team of the Season, Isak broke his silence on social media. In an emotional statement, he wrote, "I stayed quiet for too long while others spoke on my behalf. That silence allowed a version of events to take hold that doesn't reflect what really happened. Promises were made. My position has been clear for a long time. When trust is broken, the relationship can't continue. A move is what's best for everyone, not just for me." The post sparked controversy and led Newcastle to issue a firm response. In an official club statement, they said, "We're disappointed to have been made aware of Alexander Isak's social media post. No club executive ever promised that he would be allowed to leave this summer. We want to keep our best players, and while we listen to them, our decisions must always reflect the best interests of Newcastle United." This clear denial from the club sharply contrasts with how Sporting handled Gyökeres' situation. The Gyökeres clause that wasn't a clause. Sporting president Varandas provided transparency in Gyökeres' case, explaining that while the club didn't formally set a release clause at a reduced rate, there was an understanding. According to Varandas, there was no formal release clause of €60 million plus €10 million, but I did say, I'm not going to ask for €100 million. That was the spirit of the agreement. He added that Gyökeres' agent requested clarity during multiple meetings with Sporting's director of football Hugo Viana and eventually with Varandas himself. The conversation centered on finding a reasonable transfer figure, acknowledging that few players leave Portugal at 27 for astronomical sums. In the end, Arsenal met Sporting's expectations, and the move was finalized. No harsh words. No social media drama. No public fallout. Isak versus Gyökeres. What's the real difference? This brings us back to the key question: what really separates the actions of Gyökeres and Isak? On the surface, both players skipped key moments with their clubs and applied pressure to move. But according to many, intent, tone, and transparency played major roles in shaping public perception. Dan Critchlow, senior writer at Daily Canon, put it best. The big difference is that everyone accepted Gyökeres had an agreement to leave. Sporting's president even confirmed it, just not the exact number. In Isak's case, Newcastle flatly denies any such agreement existed. When asked whether Isak also has the right to feel betrayed, Critchlow added, "Sure, if what Isak says is true, then he absolutely has a right to feel let down. But the crux of the disagreement is more fundamental. Gyökeres' case was about how much. Isak's case is about if he could leave at all." That distinction, whether it was a matter of numbers or of principle, is what's fueling the ongoing scrutiny of Isak's actions. Clubs versus players. Who really holds the power? Former Arsenal manager Arsene Wenger once predicted that player power would only continue to rise. And yet, the Isak situation has prompted a reflection on where the line should be drawn. Newcastle's hard stance is seen by some as a rare moment of a club taking control, reminding everyone that contracts still matter. For Arsenal fans, watching all this unfold from a distance, the takeaway might simply be relief. They landed their striker without burning bridges or stirring controversy. Gyoke's got his move, Sporting got a fair fee, and the Gunners now have one of Europe's most in-form forwards. As for Isak, the story isn't over. Whether he eventually gets his move, or returns to Newcastle with bridges mended, remains to be seen. But one thing is clear, in the high-stakes world of football transfers, how you leave matters just as much as where you go. The fallout, dressing room dynamics and public sentiment. One of the less visible, yet equally important, aspects of these transfer standoffs is the potential impact behind closed doors. At Newcastle, Isak's absence from training with the main squad and his public statement have left many wondering how, or if, he can reintegrate smoothly. Club sources suggest there's concern among senior players about the message being sent. When one of the team's most prominent figures effectively removes himself from the group, it risks unsettling the unity that's been carefully built under Eddie Howe. In contrast, Sporting CP's players and staff, while surely aware of Gyoke's desire to leave, were reportedly kept in the loop. Communication remained internal and professional, at least until the final days, and his departure, though inevitable, was handled with more diplomacy. That difference matters. As one former player told The Athletic, the way you leave a dressing room sticks with players for years. Everyone understands ambition, but it's about how you express it. Arsenal's transfer options
Media
after
and
Kai
fan
Havertz's
reaction.
injury setback.
Two very different
As Andrea
stories.
Berta works
The
behind
media
the scenes.
response has also
With
mirrored
Kai
this
Havertz
divide.
now sidelined due to
Alexander
injury,
Isak has faced
Arsenal's
intense
carefully built
scrutiny,
squad depth has taken
particularly
a major
from
hit
Newcastle
just as it was
fans who
beginning
once
to
viewed
look
him
complete.
as a symbol of their resurgence.
After a brutal season last
While
year,
some sympathise
when no
with his
fewer than
frustration,
27 players missed
especially
time
if
through
promises
injuries,
were truly made,
including Havertz's
many
tendon
feel the
issue
public
that
area
required
of
surgery
grievances
has crossed
This
the line.
latest blow is
Fan
particularly
forums
frustrating
have lit
for
up
Mikel
with debate
Arteta and his staff.
Some users on
Although
X,
there's still no
formerly
confirmed
Twitter,
return date for the
defend
German
the Swedes'
international,
right to push for
we
a move,
expect an update from
especially
Arteta
given
in Friday's
Newcastle's
press
limited
conference.
activity in the
Sources
market this
suggest
summer.
Arsenal already
Others,
moving more
however,
actively in the transfer
argue
market.
that his timing and tone
There was always
have
room
soured
for
what
one or
was
two
once a
more
strong
deals,
connection with the
but any new
supporters.
arrivals were
By
expected
contrast,
to depend on outgoings.
Gyoke's left
especially
Lisbon
under
largely with
UEFA's
grace.
financial fair play
Sporting
constraints.
fans may have felt
That's where
disappointed,
new Sporting
but most
director
have praised
Andrea
the
Berta
striker's
has been hard at
contributions,
work, with some
trying to
even
make
wishing
things
him
happen.
success in North
With that
London.
in mind, his
Football
farewell was
London
quiet
takes a
but
look at
dignified,
three realistic,
a stark
and
contrast
wondering
to the controversy
transfer
surrounding
targets
Isaac,
who could help fill the
Arsenal's
creative and
silent
positional
win,
gap left by
smooth
Havertz.
business and squad harmony.
Eberechi
From
ease.
Arsenal's
A
perspective,
creative spark
this
Arsenal
contrast
could reignite
couldn't have
talks
worked
with.
out better.
At one point,
while the club initially
Arsenal
explored
looked like
both
they
Isaac
stepped
and
away from the
Gyoke's,
ease chase.
they ultimately
But
went with
now,
a player who
with
not only
Havertz
fit
out
the
and
tactical
squad
profile
versatility
but
at
also
a premium.
arrived without disruption.
The Crystal Palace
star
may
maybe
be
back
back
hit
in
the
the
ground
conversation.
running at London Coney.
Ease isn't a striker,
integrating quickly
but
with
that's
the squad
exactly
and
the point.
reportedly impressing
Havertz
both
brought
staff
more
and
than just
teammates
goals
with his professionalism.
His injury leaves
Internally,
Arsenal thin in
the club
multiple
is thrilled to have
creative
avoided a
positions.
drawn-out saga
And
or
ease,
PR
who can
nightmare.
play as a no.
And from a fan
10
point of view,
on the left,
the clean
or
acquisition
even
of
as
a
a second
striker who
striker
wants to be there
would bring
without
flair,
drama,
vision,
is a breath
and
of fresh
control
air
to
in a
Arsenal's
window
attack.
full of turbulence.
There were already
The
quiet
broader
talks
picture,
with his camp
player
earlier this
power
summer.
versus club
So
stability.
reigniting those
The
discussions
cases of
wouldn't take
Isaac and
much.
Gyoke's may
His
feel
arrival would
isolated,
also allow
but they
players like
speak to a
Leandro
larger
Trossard
trend across
and Mikel
modern
Merino
football,
to slot into more
increasingly
defined
complicated
roles,
balance between
improving
player
overall
empowerment
squad
and club
balance.
control.
Two,
While players are more
Ademola
vocal
Lookman,
and visible than ever,
underrated,
clubs,
versatile,
especially those
and ready
competing
for
in
a
Europe
return,
and operating
a
under
name
strict
not always in the
financial
spotlight,
regulations,
but one
are
gaining
also
serious
learning to stand
traction
their
is
ground.
Ademola Lookman.
Isaac's dispute
Sources
with
tell
Newcastle
Football
echoes similar
London that
cases
the
elsewhere
Atalanta
this
winger
summer,
has been offered to
including
several Premier
Jadon
League
Sancho's
clubs,
situation
and
Manchester
Arsenal are
United
definitely
and the
aware of his
long-winded
profile.
exit of Victor Osimhen
Lookman's
from
ability
Napoli.
to play on
In
either
each
wing
case,
or centrally
the public's
makes him a
nature of
strong
the
conflict
conflict
now
raised
that Havertz
questions
is out.
about how much
While
leverage
his previous
players truly
spells
have
at Everton
once a
and
contract
Fulham
is
didn't
signed.
quite deliver,
Where do we go
his
from
growth
here?
in Serie A
As the
has been
final
impressive.
days of the transfer
Inter
window tick
Milan
away,
failed with a
the clock is
45
ticking
million
for
euro bid
Newcastle and
earlier this
Isaac
summer
to find a
and
resolution.
that's opened the door for
With
other
no
clubs to
acceptable
step in.
offers on the table and the
Lookman
club
might
holding
not be a
firm.
marquee name,
A sale now
but
looks
his versatility
increasingly unlikely.
Recent form
Unless a late move
and
from
hunger
a
to prove
Champions League
himself in
contender
England
like
again
Paris
make him a
Saint-Germain
compelling
or
option.
Bayern Munich changes the
3.
equation.
Rodrigo.
Meanwhile,
The dream
Isaac's
signing that
return
could
to the
change
first team
everything.
environment
Let's
will be
talk
anything but
ambition.
simple.
If
Trust
Arsenal
has been
want to go
broken,
bold,
at least publicly,
Rodrigo is the name
and how
that's
must
been
now
floating
manage
around
not only the
Emirates
striker's
conversations
fitness
for
and
weeks,
focus,
but also the
Real
morale of the
Madrid
squad
winger,
watching events
who can operate
unfold in
anywhere
real
across
time.
the front line.
At Arsenal,
is reportedly
the
not
focus
central
turns
to
to
Xabi Alonso's plans for the new
Gyoke's
season.
has been brought in
While
to
Manchester
lead the line
City
in a
appears
season
focused
where
on keeping
expectations
Savinho,
are sky high.
Arsenal could
And if
quietly
he
make a
delivers,
move for Rodrigo.
the calm and
If they
decisive
can
way
make
his
the
finances
transfer was
work.
handled will be
His
remembered
price
as one
tag
of the
is hefty,
smartest moves
likely
of the
around
summer.
90 million
Final
euros.
thought, legacy and
77.8
loyalty
million
in modern
pounds.
football,
Which puts the
At the
Gunners in a
heart of
tough
all
spot
this is a
due to
question situation that keeps resurfacing
unless
in
a
the
major
modern
sale
game.
or creative
What does
financial
loyalty mean
arrangement
anymore?
is made,
Isaac
loan with
may yet
obligation,
rebuild his
perhaps
relationship with
this one's a
Newcastle.
long shot.
But it's the
like
kind
so
of
many
move
before
that could
him,
lift the
he
entire
might
squad
move on
and send a signal
leaving
across
behind
Europe.
a legacy clouded
Looking
by a messy
ahead,
exit. There's no sugarcoating it.
for now,
Losing Havertz
leaves
is a
his former
setback,
club with respect
but it
intact
also
and a
creates
bright
an
future
opportunity.
ahead. Arsenal
thing
can
for
reassess
in today's football
landscape and maybe even come out stronger by making the right move in the market.
Can shape a player's image,
whether it's
just
the dynamic unpredictability
of
of ease, the reborn efficiency of Lookman, or the superstar quality of Rodrigo, the Gunners have options. And with Andrea Berta now pulling the strings behind the scenes, fans should feel optimistic that the club won't stand still. Squad implications and tactical adjustments. The timing of Havertz's injury couldn't be worse, especially considering how Arteta was finally beginning to mould a squad with two high-quality options for each position. The German's unique profile, a hybrid of attacking midfielder and false nine, gave the Gunners flexibility in high-pressure matches. Without him, Arsenal loses a key link between midfield and attack, especially in games where control and technical finesse are required. Internally, this puts extra weight on players like Leandro Trossard, who might now be used more centrally. There's also a possibility that Arteta will call upon academy prospects or experiment tactically, perhaps pushing Martin Degaard into more advanced positions or tweaking the role of Gabriel Jesus once he returns from his own injury layoff. Gabriel Jesus' return, boost or added pressure? Speaking of Jesus, the Brazilian forward is expected to return midway through the season after recovering from his latest knee issue. While that's good news, there's a risk in expecting too much too soon. Jesus himself is no stranger to injury setbacks, and Arsenal fans know all too well the dangers of rushing a return. This makes reinforcements in attack all the more critical. The club simply cannot rely on Jesus and Trossard alone to carry the load in a campaign that includes Premier League, Champions League, and domestic cup ambitions. Financial fair play. A delicate dance. Behind the scenes, Andrea Berta is navigating a complex financial puzzle. With UEFA's financial fair play regulations tightening, Arsenal must walk a fine line between ambition and sustainability. There's pressure to generate income through player sales. Names like Eddie Nketiah, Emile Smith-Rowe, and even Kieran Tierney have come up in exit rumours. Sources close to the club suggest that Arsenal are open to creative deals, such as loans with purchase options or staggered payments, to bring in their targets without triggering FFP alarms. Berta's track record at Atletico Madrid shows he's capable of pulling off these kinds of deals, but it's a race against time as the window enters its final stretch. Fan reaction and media buzz. The news of Havertz's injury sent a ripple through the Arsenal fan base. While some expressed concern over squad depth, others pointed to this as an opportunity for the club to act decisively in the market. On social media, the majority of fans have rallied behind the idea of signing either Ease or Lookman, viewing them as realistic and high-upside options. The Rodrigo rumours, while tantalising, have sparked debate over whether now is the right moment for such a blockbuster move, especially given the club's cautious financial posture. Pundits, too, have weighed in. Former Arsenal midfielder Paul Merson suggested on Sky Sports that bringing in someone like Ease would make more sense than another winger. It's that creativity from deep Arsenal are going to miss most with Havertz gone. What's next for Arsenal? With just under 2 weeks left in the transfer window, all eyes are now on what Arsenal will do. The urgency is real, but so is the opportunity. The club doesn't need to panic, but it does need to act. Havertz's injury, while unfortunate, has highlighted areas that still require strengthening if Arsenal are to truly compete on all fronts. If the Gunners can navigate this moment smartly, balancing financial discipline with strategic aggression in the market, they could emerge even more prepared for the intense season ahead. Transfer twist. Arsenal make late move for Eberechi Ease after Tottenham talks. A major transfer twist is unfolding as Eberechi Ease edges closer to a summer exit, just as Arsenal respond decisively to the blow of losing Kai Havertz to injury. The Crystal Palace star, long linked with a switch to Tottenham Hotspur, was widely expected to make the move across London this summer. Spurs had entered negotiations with Palace earlier this week, aiming to finalise a deal. But now, a dramatic late intervention from Arsenal has shaken up the race, and potentially turned the tide. According to Football.London, the Gunners have now stepped up their pursuit of Ease, who grew up supporting the club and even played for them at youth level. Sources close to the player suggest that Arsenal is his preferred destination, giving the Gunners a clear emotional edge over their North London rivals. Why Arsenal moved now? Arsenal's sudden urgency makes sense. The injury to Kai Havertz, sustained during the recent match against Manchester United, has created both a tactical gap and a depth concern in midfield. While the club is still awaiting full medical assessments, early signs suggest that Havertz could miss several crucial weeks, triggering a need for reinforcements. Enter Ease, a player capable of operating across attacking midfield roles, with flair, creativity, and Premier League experience. While Arsenal had previously cooled their interest following the contract renewal of teenage talent Ethan Nwaneri, Havertz's injury has changed the equation. The Gunners see Ease as a ready-made solution, someone who can play centrally but also drift wide when needed, mirroring much of the tactical versatility Havertz offers. The transfer clause and the opportunity. Earlier this summer, Ease had a £67.5 million release clause in his contract. That clause has since expired, but Arsenal were reportedly never deterred by the valuation. With serious intent now on the table, the question becomes whether Palace will be willing to sell, and how quickly they can secure a replacement. Sources indicate that Crystal Palace have been holding off finalising any transfer until they lock down a suitable incoming deal, which is part of the reason why Tottenham's talks had stalled. That hesitation may have opened the door for Arsenal, who moved swiftly and decisively to present their own offer. As reported by David Ornstein, Ease has made it clear that his heart is set on a move to the Emirates. If Arsenal can now finalise terms with Palace, they could not only land a player with international level potential, but also deal a psychological blow to Spurs, who are confident they had the deal nearly done. What happens next? Crystal Palace are due to play Fredrikstad in a UEFA Conference League playoff and trained earlier today ahead of the clash. Whether Ease features in that match remains to be seen. His absence could indicate that talks with Arsenal have progressed to an advanced stage. As deadline day approaches, this transfer battle is one to watch closely. Arsenal may have been late to the party, but they could very well walk away with the prize. Behind the scenes, Arsenal's strategy and Tottenham's frustration. Sources close to the Emirates suggest that Arsenal's renewed pursuit of Ease wasn't a spontaneous reaction, but rather a calculated move, with groundwork laid weeks ago. After initially monitoring his situation earlier in the summer, the Gunners kept communication lines open with the players' representatives. The club was waiting for the right moment, and Havertz's injury provided it. On Tottenham's side, there's growing frustration. After days of negotiations with Palace and personal terms believed to be close, Spurs now find themselves potentially outmaneuvered by their fiercest rivals. The shift has reportedly left some within the Spurs camp feeling blindsided, with suggestions that Arsenal's quiet positioning caught them off guard. A source familiar with the negotiations told Football.London. Tottenham were confident they were leading the race. Arsenal's late push has definitely changed things. Ease's preference could be decisive. Why Ease fits Arteta's vision. Mikel Arteta has made versatility and technical intelligence core pillars of his tactical system. Ease, known for his fluid movement, tight ball control, and ability to operate between the lines, fits the bill perfectly. He can slot in as a no-10, play as a left-sided midfielder, or even drift wide in a 4-3-3. With fixtures piling up due to Champions League commitments and the need to rotate during domestic competitions, adding a player like Ease gives Arteta more than just cover. It gives him new tactical options. One club source described Ease as a Swiss Army knife for the final third. And with Arsenal aiming to close the gap with Manchester City, depth in creativity is seen as a non-negotiable heading into the winter period. Crystal Palace's dilemma. Palace now find themselves under pressure from all sides. Ease is believed to be openly pushing for the Arsenal move, and with his contract no longer protected by a release clause, the club must weigh its options carefully. Losing a talismanic figure without a replacement lined up would be a huge blow, not just to the team's ambitions, but to morale. The club has been actively scouting attacking midfielders in recent weeks, including Bundesliga and League One options, with some reports suggesting that they've already held exploratory talks with potential replacements. However, no deal is close at the time of writing. That delay is where Arsenal may have found their opportunity, and they're moving quickly to take advantage. Fan reactions. North London buzzes. As expected, news of Arsenal's late bid has set social media ablaze. Gunners fans are largely ecstatic, with many highlighting Ease's connection to the club as a young fan and former academy trialist. One viral post read, "He supported us as a kid. This isn't just a signing, it's a homecoming. Let's get it done." Tottenham fans, meanwhile, are far less enthusiastic. Many have taken to X to express disbelief that their long-standing target could be hijacked in the final stretch. The mood online is tense, with some even calling for the club to pull out of negotiations entirely if they're seen as losing ground. What comes next? A race against time. With just days remaining in the transfer window, the pressure is on. Arsenal are believed to be finalising their formal offer, with discussions ongoing regarding structure and performance-related add-ons. While no deal is signed yet, optimism is growing inside the Emirates that they could pull off what would be a statement signing, and a significant win over direct rival. As for Ease, those close to him say he's fully focused on getting the move done, and that his heart is now set on red, not white. If Palace and Arsenal can agree terms in the coming hours, the Emirates could soon be welcoming a dynamic new face, one who not only fills a pressing squad need but could also play a central role in Arsenal's title charge. Stay tuned.